My niece swore at me and said her dad told her I'm like a girl because I clean and cook. When I asked for a pardon, my whole family turned against me. My wife and I are 29 years old and 30 years old, and we have 2 kids, 5 and 3 years on. My wife works full-time in an office, but I work from home and set my own hours. As long as I meet my goals, no one really cares how many hours I worked or what time of day I worked except for when I have Zoom meetings. My sister is 26 years old. Nick, her 30-year-old husband, lives close and works full-time. Let's call her Barb. Their kid is 5F. Let's call her Tracy, since I have a flexible work schedule when our kids started going to daycare. We pretty much agreed that I would also drop off and pick up my niece from daycare. It didn't bother me much, and I thought it was fun for my kids to hang out with their cousin. I also get along with Tracy, and I've always thought I was her cool uncle. It's nice of her to behave herself most of the time. Anyway, I bring her and my kids back to our house most days. I make them snacks or dinner, and my sister picks them up in the afternoon or evening. A few days ago, I was making snacks with my 3-year-old while the 5-year-olds watched Bluey on TV. All of a sudden, I heard yelling. When I ran over to see what was wrong, my son was yelling at her that my dad isn't a girl. He is, while my sister yells back, "That looks like a girl." The word sounds different in my language, but it still means the same thing, as is the difference between using it and just calling someone gay by their name. At first I was shocked, but I quickly turned off the TV, sat her down, and told her that this is a bad word that we shouldn't use, and that I'm not a girl anyway. She should say sorry to me because this is a bad word, and we don't treat each other badly in this family. If I hear this word again, I'll tell her parents and she will get in trouble. Because her dad called me that, she said she wouldn't get in trouble. Her dad isn't in trouble. I was shocked, no matter what her dad said. I told her that word is bad and she shouldn't use it with me or around me. I also told her that she should say sorry because it hurt my feelings, which she did because she's a good kid. We talked some more, and I pushed her about other things her parents had said. From what I can tell, getting information from a 5-year-old is clearly hard and not always dependable. Nick, my Bill, told my sister in front of Tracy that guys shouldn't stay home all day and take care of kids. That's a woman's job. This is also true for most of the things I do around the house. I see this as a sign that I'm not really a man since I do cleaning and my wife makes more money than I do. I tried to explain to her that men and women could work from an office or from home, and that my wife or Barb working long hours at the office doesn't make them men or women. But I didn't bore her with it because it wasn't really her fault. I put it off talking to my sister about it right away because I knew it would be tough, and I didn't want to do it in front of the kids. I also wanted to talk it over with my wife first. That night I did talk to my wife and she seemed just as upset as I did. She agreed with me when I said I thought I should ask Nick and my sister to say sorry. When I called my sister to tell her what happened, she told me it was just a word and that I was making it worse than it was. She also said that Nick doesn't hate me. I told her that I didn't care if he dislikes me or not. He's talking trash about me to her and my sister behind my back, and she doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. That's just how Nick was. She told me, so I should calm down. I told her to fuck off and hung up. If that was how she felt, she could pick up her own kid from daycare. I know it was rude and short notice, but I felt like the people I did so much for over the years and who were like family were treating me badly. My wife told me she got it and that I shouldn't give up until I get a real apology. The next 2 days were weekends, so there was no child care. I thought Barb would call or text, but there was no sign of her. I thought she didn't care about what I said because she hadn't sent me any texts or called me. This made me even more angry. When it was time to pick Tracy up from daycare, the calls did come, but I didn't answer them. I dropped off my own kids and didn't answer for a while. Even though it was small, I let Barb cook for a few hours because I thought it was the right thing to do, and it felt great. I did answer the phone when she called again around noon. I was going to tell her with pride that I was ready to say sorry and that we would do that, but I forgot to. Instead, she yelled at me that I wasn't responsible, that I just didn't show up, and that she was late for work because of me. I told her I wasn't going to pick her up. You had 2 days to get things set up. I hung up again because she wouldn't stop yelling at me. She called and texted me like she was going to pick up Tracy from daycare, but I told her I wouldn't be there, and she stopped responding. Tracy was expecting me to take her with me when I picked up my kids, but I didn't. It was hard for both of us. I know it's not her fault that she got stuck at home all of a sudden and couldn't play and eat snacks with us, but I didn't want to let this go. I still think I should be sorry, so I told her that my mom and I were fighting and that I'd pick her up again when we got along. Because she's only 5, it was clear she didn't like it, but I said sorry, got my kids, and left. A little while later I got a call from my mom. Barb had asked her to pick up Tracy, but my mom has a disability, so it was really hard for her with Tracy, and asked me why I was being mean to Barb. I told her everything, expecting her to support me, but she also said something about how Nick is, which made me say that the more I think about how Nick is, the less I like it, and if he thinks all that crap about me in general, I'm not going to do his work for free. It was her opinion that I was exaggerating everything. I told her that I wasn't, since all I wanted was an apology and everyone else seemed to want all of this crap instead of just giving it to me. She told me to be strong and not let it get to me, but I told her I was done and to have fun with Tracy. That night, Nick himself called me. I wasn't sure if I should answer because I thought he might be calling to say sorry. Not at all. Barb says that the way I'm acting is making her very upset. We're family, so how can I treat my sister badly like this? Because we're family, I told him he couldn't talk trash about me to his kid, who I watch every day. He told me he was kidding, and it was all in good fun. For me, it wasn't good or fun, and I want him to say sorry. He yelled at me and called me a crazy little girl and said I was a FK who couldn't take a joke. I hung up the phone and told him to FK off. Barb and my mom called me a lot, but I didn't answer. Barb texted me that she thought Tracy shouldn't have to deal with my petty behavior. I told her that I agreed, and I said that Tracy shouldn't have to deal with her parents' flaky behavior either. She then texted me and yelled at me a lot, saying I was mean to her and her mom and that she was going to lose her job. After telling her I was done, I told her I would block her number if she didn't apologize in her next message. She didn't, so I did. My mom has been picking up Tracy from daycare for the past few days, and it's been really hard seeing her and telling her that Grandma is going to pick her up, which she hates. She tells me she's not having fun with Grandma and wants to come over to our house, which breaks my heart, but I never got an apology from anyone but the 5-year-old. I don't want to let this go, because that would mean I let my family not care about my rules. On the other hand, I love my niece and don't want to hurt her or make her angry at me. She's a good kid, and it's not her fault. So, AITA? And what should I do? Changed, holy crap, you guys. Thanks so much for all your help and support. The post has only been up for 4 hours. That Nick might actually want Barb to quit her job is an idea I hadn't thought of before. But now I do. It makes me very scared about her. Still, I can't do much until she at least agrees that that's just how Nick is telling her to stop overreacting won't work with me. I also think it will only be a matter of time before my mom is none more. She's already having a tough time, so I hope I can talk to her about it. Ideally, she'll understand my point of view, but I'll settle for because she's desperate. I don't know what kind of child care they can afford. They took out a big loan to buy a house that they can barely pay. I will also make sure Tracy knows that I love her, and that none of this is her fault. Thanks to everyone. Changed on November 13th, 2024. Okay, so I shared this yesterday and was really shocked by all the comments, help, and support. I want to thank everyone for their help, and I think this calls for an update. To be clear about a few things. My dad had a heart attack and died 2 years ago. It wasn't a surprise because he smoked a lot and lived a pretty bad life, and it wasn't his first either. Before that, and until the end, he was a great grandfather and a great dad. But when he died, my mom was by herself, and she doesn't work. My mom has MS, which is mostly stable but slowly gets worse over time. It comes up sometimes and is made worse by stress, which she is going through right now. The level she gets back to after a flare-up isn't always the same as it was before. We try to keep her from being stressed out most of the time. My dad had life insurance, which paid for her house and gave her some money. She also has a helper who comes over 3 times a week to clean, cook, do her shopping, and other things that she can't pay for, so my wife and I do it. To add to what I said in the original post, my wife and I are probably doing better financially than Barb and Bill. They have a nice house and nice cars, but they also have a mortgage and loans. The good response I got made me think about this stuff again. I thought about how I could stand my ground without giving up on Tracy completely. I realized there wasn't a perfect answer, so I had to settle for something. I missed work that day to think about and deal with this stuff. It hurt me a lot when someone said something about how someone else would feel in Tracy's shoes, and I can't do that to her now. Some of you wanted a different report, but I'm sorry, I just can't give it to you now. All of us love her deeply, and it's not her fault. My kids love her too. My sister wasn't blocked because she needs to be able to get in touch with me if I'm going to help her kid. During the day, I talked to my mom, and she was again upset about having to pick up Tracy, which is hard for her. I told her I was ready to do it, but I'm coming over and she's going to have to hear me out, to which she agreed. I talked to her for a long time, avoiding snark and lashing out this time, and just explaining that basically how serious Nick was or how he is doesn't matter. I used that rocking the boat analogy someone linked to in comments, and further stressed my point by saying that it shouldn't matter if I was justified or not in getting upset. I am her child, and if something upset me, it at least warrants giving me the benefit of the doubt before siding against me, and eventually it seemed to come through. She apologized and we hugged it out. And I think she got it. She's not a very confrontational person and generally really tries to keep the peace, and this time she went about it wrong. I'm not saying I'm not mad, but she's my mom and she apologized. I explained to her that she shouldn't be covering for me, because that means I have no leg to stand on when confronting Nick and Barb, and she was receptive to it. I texted my sister that we needed to talk and I'll drop Tracy off at their place tonight, to which I got a stoic thumbs up. I picked Tracy up from daycare today and she was overjoyed. She was actually a little possessive of me, staying by my side all afternoon instead of running off to play, which was cute but also made me feel like shit a little, because that's impact me not picking her up. I explained to the best of my ability that she's not in trouble and I'm not angry with her, but I am angry with her parents and we need to work that out, but I'll do my best to not stop picking her up anymore, which she was really happy about. I dropped her off in the evening and once she was in bed I sat down to talk with Barb and Nick. I told them flat out that Mom wasn't going to be covering for them anymore. And if they didn't let me finish what I had to say, I would get up and leave, and they can find new arrangements for Tracy. Didn't mean it, but they don't need to know that. They weren't happy but they were willing to listen, so that's progress. Or at least the threat working. I explained that this was the situation now. I don't need them to mean their apology, but I sure as fuck was going to need one. This was principle now. I have spent years taking care of their child, and if they wanted to be assholes, I wasn't going to do it for free. So this was how it goes now. 1. I am no longer going to be dropping her off in the morning until further notice. There was no excuse for the way Nick acted, and it needed to have some lasting impact. 2. I was no longer going to be paying for family outings and family vacations. It was a man's job to support his family, so good luck with that. The exception is Tracy, who is always welcome. 3. If I hear any more BS being talked about me behind my back, I was going to start charging them for my service. My plan was to dangle the thing they want, childcare, restoring it, but at the same time, giving some repercussions and threat of things getting hard for them again. I also laid it on pretty thick about how I am a man, so I obviously have my pride and can't have that be disrespected. Even by my own family, who I obviously love, don't really consider Nick family but figured he wouldn't figure that out. Nick was not happy about this, and my sister actually had to take him outside to talk it out without me, but eventually they did agree to it, and I got my, admittedly half-hearted, apology. I could probably press it further. But I didn't want to risk having to either back down or hurt Tracy again, so I took this. There were no tears and no warm hugs, but I get to walk away with what I wanted, giving them some payback without having to give up my time with Tracy. I still plan to talk to my sister alone about her relationship with Nick and about how she sees me, but I figure I should let things calm down a bit before I do. I know this isn't the resolution some, maybe most of you wanted, but at the end of the day I need to find a solution I can live with, and for me this is it. We'll update if anything changes. Next story, wife cheated 6 years ago. I forgave her and everything was perfect until my sister asked if I wanted to spend my life with someone who betrayed me. Hello everyone. My wife and I have been married for 20 years and we have a daughter who's 18. She graduated high school a few months ago. Around 6 years ago, I found out that my wife was cheating on me and having an affair which lasted for a couple of months. I really wanted to divorce, but my wife was really remorseful. She quit her job. She started going to therapy. She promised all reconciliation steps I asked for. Ultimately, I did decide to stay with my wife for her sake and for our family's sake too. For around 5 years, everything was actually going great, and we had date nights, romantic vacations, and we really loved each other. However, on the 6th year, the whole thing resurfaced back on my mind, and I just couldn't get my mind off it. I finally made my decision after a particular line from my sister struck a chord with me. She said, "Would you really want to use the gift of life and spend it with someone who had betrayed you so badly?" She told me this a couple of days before my daughter's graduation, and that's when I finally decided I couldn't do it anymore. A day before my daughter's graduation, I informed my wife of my decision and told her that I would be filing for divorce soon. My wife was shocked, and she cried a lot and told me she would do anything, but I told her that my decision was final. My daughter's graduation in itself was great, and I was really proud of my daughter, and my wife seemed happy too. But my daughter could sense something was wrong and asked me why her mom seemed down and trying to fake a smile. I told her not to worry about it and to just enjoy the day. The next day, however, I told my daughter I would be filing for divorce, and my daughter seemed shocked. She said how I could do this to her mom before graduation, and that's why her mom couldn't enjoy the graduation. I told her it's none of her business, but we'll both always love her regardless. My wife and I are now going through divorce proceedings. ADA. You could have waited a few days. Also, if you were happy, why did you let that line from your sister affect you so much? Are you easily influenced by others? Is the appearance of having always had a perfect marriage so important to you? Isn't the point to get a deeper and deeper understanding of the other person and ourselves? Oop, it wasn't just that line, and it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. I was dwelling on it for the past year or so, and talking it out with my C's. She told me that it was finally time I put myself first, and that I deserved to be with someone who would unconditionally love me, someone who would be there for me through thick and thin, and someone who would never betray me. Commenter 2, I would have waited a bit after her graduation, since you already waited so long. Her graduation was marred due to her mom having to fake joy. Your daughter clearly picked up on it. Now, she finds out the day after, further marring her memory of that day. You're not the asshole for deciding on a divorce, but your timing was a bit assholish. Oop, I just wanted to be honest and transparent with my wife once I made the decision. I was also able to enjoy my daughter's graduation, and a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. My daughter's graduation day was the proudest day of my life. Commenter 3, are you having a midlife crisis? You forgave her? You waited 6 years? Did a young chick make it so these memories resurfaced? And then you made the graduation about the divorce. Your daughter will forever remember that. Yes, oop. My daughter did have a really good time. The graduation party was great too. We took lots of pictures and I'm sure she will remember the day fondly. The next day, however, I told my daughter about the divorce because she kept asking me about why her mom seemed so down. I did not really want to break the news to her so soon after graduation, but I really had no choice because she wanted to know the truth. My daughter, of course, was really sad about hearing it, and she even broke down in tears, but divorce is just a part of life, and both me and her mom still love her. She is at college now. And I'm sure she'll get over it soon. And I don't really have a midlife crisis or some other woman. I'm not even looking to date, at least for the next few years. My focus is on myself and my family of origin. Commenter 4, get it's tough. But the timing was terrible. Your daughter deserves joyful memories, not family chaos on her graduation day. She'll remember this forever. An NSBP update, October 26, 2024. My daughter called me last night and told me she came across the post I had posted, and after reading my comments, she asked how I could be so cruel to her mom. She then told me she was going to temporarily go low contact with me. I did tell her I know she's going through a lot, and I'll always be there for her. But I'll respect her decision to go low contact. So that's not really the best news, but life does move on.